Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Virgo, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of October 2023. I hope you are well. I'm using the Tarot of the Abyss for you today. Before the reading begins, if you would like to go a little bit deeper because the reading has resonated with you, there is an extended that you'll be able to access at the end. That is the first link in the description box. Second link in the description box is to my private community. That's the Order of the Phoenix over on Circle. You can get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost and hang out with an extraordinary group of people. So if that sounds like something that you could make use of, you know what to do with either of those links. Right, Virgo, let's have a look and see what's going on with you. Can I have 3 cards for Virgo, please? There is the first one. We have the Star in your recent past. It's Aquarius energy. We have the High Priestess in your current energy. And what's coming towards Virgo? Oh, thank you. We have the Tower reversed. Interesting. Okay, so we have the 7 of Cups at the bottom of the deck, and already I'm getting a sense that the issue here for you is overwhelm. That's what I think. That seems to be coming through loud and clear, but things aren't nearly as confusing as you think they are just yet. I mean, I don't know if you're overthinking it, or I don't know if there's just too much stuff coming in at once. But this 7 of Cups here at the bottom of the deck speaks to confusion or illusion. And sometimes how we can be kind of, in some ways we can be sucked into the realms of fantasy and daydream with what we're trying to sort out. It can be very ungrounded energy because we've just been kind of swept away by our emotions and we don't know what we think about a particular thing. Or it can be, it can be simply overwhelm. And I don't think I've ever used that word to describe this card, but that is what I'm feeling for you when I'm looking at it right here. And then when we see all this major arcana that's coming out here for you to describe where you've been recently, and when I say recent past, what I mean is, I don't know, 6 weeks back from here up until this morning. That time frame roughly is what we're looking at. We've got the Star there, we've got the High Priestess there, which is Pisces energy. Which denotes a high degree of sensitivity and an openness to things. And then we've got the Tower, which is, Scorpio energy, and it's given to be very destructive. And I wonder if this is something that you've been worrying about rather than something necessarily that might be coming to bear. Because certainly with it in the reverse, there's a question of whether it's actually going to hit you at all. Now, I want to get some clarifiers before I say any more. Tell me about this Star card, please. We have the King of Cups. And we have the 3 of Pentacles. Tell me about the High Priestess, please. Ooh, 2 together, thank you. Yeah, we've got the 2 of Pentacles and the King of Swords. The Tower. There's the Tower here. Ooh, we have King of Wands. And the Queen of Pentacles in reverse. Okay, the Sun is at the bottom of the deck here, which is really rather beautiful. A little fiddlestick. All major arcana, all kings. Now, just to explain for some of you who aren't aware, the tarot is divided into major and minor arcana, and arcana simply means work, right? So you've got major work and minor work. Those significations do not indicate what is more important versus what is less important. Major simply means, big. When we think about it in terms of, big universal energies that happen at us and require some sort of response. The minor arcana is things that are much more in the realm of our actions, our doings, our thoughts, all that sort of stuff, right? It's kind of the relative size. It's down here. It's stuff that we can interact with. So what we have here is a ton of universal energy happening at you and a set of responses by you. And I'm not surprised in the slightest that you're feeling rather overwhelmed by it all. I think anybody would be feeling overwhelmed with this amount of energy happening and the number of responses that are required. But if we, before we even look into the cards specifically, notice that we have a king for every major arcana card that is on the table. So in the Star we have the King of Cups, in the High Priestess we have the King of Swords, in the Tower we have the King of Wands. We don't have one for over here, but I mean, there's still time and we extended for something like that to come out. And the interesting thing is that these kings do not align in terms of element with the cards that they are describing. Right, so we've got air and water, we've got water and air, we've got water and fire here. Now that could be speaking to the struggle, because obviously if you're wanting to master a major arcana energy that has a particular elemental resonance, it would make sense that you would, for example, meet fire with fire, right? That's a sentence, a phrase that we're all kind of aware of. And it seems here that you're trying to deal with these big energies, these big themes that are coming up with a different kind of king. Now it could be that that is where the tension is being caused. That's where there's a certain amount of dissonance. We've got thinking things going on in here, and then there's an emotional reaction to it, watery emotional stuff going on over here, and there's a fire king who's trying to deal with it. He's trying to put that out. That's one way of looking at it, but what I'm leaning to more for you, Virgo, is the idea that you're trying not to get sucked into something. And whether this is a specific situation or whether this is something more, a kind of bigger, broader, more universal in theme, I'm not sure. I imagine it will come out over the course of the reading, but I just think it's really interesting that we have each of these kings. Kings are active, masculine expressions of energy, right? And we all have masculine and feminine energy within us. When it comes to things of an active nature, of a decisive nature, of something that requires an action outside of you, that tends to be when the kings show up. The queens, I think, are more about the internal subjective awareness of the situation. They look to make sense of it, they look to find the truth in things, and then the king has a corresponding action that goes with him. So we start off with the Star card here for you, and as I said, that's the card of Aquarius there. It's air element. And the Star card can speak, like all the tarot cards do, to a multitude of different meanings. All of the cards are multivalent. So we have notions of healing. When we see the Star card, it's a really profound card of healing, actually, because it follows on from the Tower, and the Tower is the destructive act. The Star is the point where we begin to put things back together, and that usually starts with a sense of connection and hope and faith for the future, because being ruled by Aquarius, this is a very future-facing card. We're not stuck in catastrophe here. We're looking to move out beyond it. And I love the way that it's been illustrated, because we've got somebody who is literally reaching for a star here. The more I'm talking, I feel like the healing is important for you, Virgo, and I think it's something that you've become increasingly aware of. And I would say, actually, that we might be seeing you having been coming out of a period of time that has seen you more isolated than perhaps you thought you were. Maybe as isolated as you've needed to be in order to begin the process of healing. But there's definitely something more outward facing now about the way that you are dealing with the world. I mean, the fact that it's coming out under here makes it feel quite foundational, in so much as you have been looking at your foundations, maybe looking at where your support networks are and all that kind of thing. But I think more importantly, noticing where you have lent on them and where you haven't. Because it's very easy to feel like you're completely alone and unsupported when you're filtering out offers of help, right? And as a Leo, I quite often filter out those offers of help. Oh no, I'm fine, thank you very much. And then later down the line, I'm just kind of like, oh my God, I wish somebody could help me. But then I won't allow myself to be helped, right? That may or may not apply to you as a thing. But there's a sense of more than just you now forming part of your existence, forming part of what you want your future to be. And that's been a position that you've come to very tentatively, because the last few years, Virgo, have things I think have improved on the whole fairly dramatically for you this year, although there have been other issues that have come up, looking at things on a global level. I think in terms of where you were 2 years ago, you've progressed incredibly. But it's been long, slow, hard work. And the other thing that the star can talk about sometimes is connection. Like a willingness to connect, a willingness to build with other people, a willingness to come together with other people and cooperate rather than isolate yourself. Because now is the time to do that, right? That's how it feels. You're comfortable with now being the time to do that. And there seems to be a lot more hope about the future and everything that the future contains for you personally than you have felt for a long time. Now, this King of Cups, who I've been studiously ignoring all of this time, was very rude of me. Scorpio energy. Wherever Scorpio is involved, there are always themes of depth and emotional regeneration and all those kind of things that come through, right? We might say the same about the star card, actually. But he speaks to sometimes the emotional maturation process. But I think more specifically for you, it is the way that you will allow yourself, that you do allow yourself now to open up in a way that you haven't before. The protective mechanism that kind of slammed shut around you out of necessity for the last few years when things were being really, really difficult. I think over the course of this year, it's been starting to open up again bit by bit. And so your future, hope, all of these things are now in your mind in a way that they weren't before. And the desire to build something, or to create something that can be built on, which is allowing other people in to be a part of that, seems to be really, really strong here for you. It's, the King of Cups doesn't wear his heart on his sleeve. I mean, that's not what the meaning of this card is. This is somebody who is emotionally balanced. He's not going to get knocked off his throne. I don't know if you can see there, but his throne is actually in the middle of the sea, which is quite curious there. It denotes somebody who is able to sit with their emotions and not be washed off their throne by the size of the waves and the choppiness of the water. It's like, yeah, there's a little bit of stuff going on here, but he can deal with it, he can handle it. And so it is with you, Virgo, because what you've processed in the last few years is absolutely phenomenal. And as you are beginning to open up, as you are beginning to understand that you are managing your emotions in a way that is so healthy now for you, the possibility of the future and everything that it contains has been something that you've been thinking on a lot. Now I'm going to pull another card for that, just make sure I'm not missing anything in that interpretation. Tell me about the King of Cups and the Three of Pentacles, please. I've got the Chariot. It's a card of Cancer, another major arcana energy. And it talks about victory and success in the first instance, but it's mostly through the application of will and determination, but also balance. And we're back to that theme of balance there, and specifically emotional balance, because quite unusually for this Cancer card, for this Chariot card rather, we see water on there, which is not something you usually see on a Chariot card. So we've got all of these themes here, and they're all feeling pretty good. But then we come to the High Priestess. Well, not but, and we come to the High Priestess. Now, she is an open channel. You know, the whole point of the High Priestess is that she is a conduit for universal wisdom to kind of flow through her. She's sometimes called the Oracle. And the, you know, we have themes of intuition and things like that. It's like the things that you know without having any reason to know those things, and yet you do, right? You hold that wisdom inside of you, whether that is stuff that's come through from the universe, source, whatever, or you know, just those intuitive bumps that take you one way over another. But, and there is a but here, we have this Two of Pentacles. It is astonishing how many times this card has come out for this round of readings. Who did I do yesterday? It's Gemini and Cancer yesterday, and one of those signs didn't have the Two of Pentacles come out. But I think we're probably at about 90% for the readings that I've done that's come out over and over again. And I've only you and Pisces left to read for. And I've been bringing everybody's attention to an interesting fact that you know, some people don't know about some of these cards, which is that the person who actually designed the cards, actually illustrated them, was Pamela Coleman-Smith, and she was a theatre set designer. And there are a number of cards within the tarot that have been illustrated so as to give us an understanding that this is something that is going on stage, right? And the Two of Pentacles is one of those. Now, when we talk about this card quite often, you know, we're looking at the emotional maelstrom in the background. There's a lot going on there. These black dots that you can see on the camera are actually ships. And it's clear that these ships are kind of in trouble a little bit, right? But the chap on stage is turning to face us. He's not looking at what's going on behind him. And he's trying to juggle these pentacles, right? What this does is offer this card a slightly performative quality, in so much as whatever we are doing, and this card very clearly says coping to me. This is a coping card. It's done either for the benefit of other people or it's done for the benefit of ourselves, whereby we can tell ourselves that we're coping, everything's fine, you know, like the dog meme holding the cup of coffee while the house is on fire. This is fine. I'm sure we've all resonated with that particular meme at some point. And it says, what I'm feeling here is that you're so open, so sensitive, so intuitive at this point, and trying to cope with what is coming through, in addition to all of the, you know, the stresses of just being incarnated on this 3D plane. That it's overwhelming. We're back to this feeling of overwhelm here. I said right at the beginning, before I even pulled any clarifiers out, that it felt like you were overwhelmed because it seemed like there were too many things. Like there's too much information, there's too much going on, too many things to try and consider, perhaps too many things to try and make decisions about. And it's taking quite a lot of your energy to try and remain balanced, because we see this theme of balance happening here, right? You're standing on one leg, the pentacles are there. But I also said that I thought that you were doing much better than you thought you would. Well, you know, I've got my Saturn and my Jupiter in Virgo. I know what it is to be highly self-critical. The thing is, I don't think it's high self-criticism. I don't think it's the inner critic that's coming out and shrieking at you at this point. I just genuinely feel that you aren't quite as aware as you could be of how stable you are, right? So for example, what we could be having here is a situation whereby you feel the kind of coping that you're doing is performative, and maybe there's some underlying doubt about your ability to be able to do whatever it is that you're doing. But the reality of the situation, if you pulled right back and had a look at it, is that there is an awful lot going on, and anyone in your position would be struggling to try and make sense of it all. But you're doing a better job than most and you're just not seeing it at the moment, Virgo, because it seems to be like cope, make decision, make, you know, and the amount of information, the amount of stuff that's coming through to you at this point is making you feel like you're overwhelmed and yet still very determined to keep showing up for what's happening. Now, we have the moon in reverse, which is an interesting card there. And what do we have it with? We have the Two of Swords. Now, this is interesting because these have slightly opposing meanings. Well, the moon covers everything that is hidden, right? So the way that I read the cards, that's your subconscious, your non-conscious, the unconscious for you. It's the things that your conscious mind doesn't readily see about yourself. There, right? But it can also talk about secrets, and it can talk about, you know, just things that are hidden, full stop. Things that are confusing, things that have, you know, that moonlit quality to them, rather than being able to see them clearly by the light of the sun, as we have over here. What we've got is things that are cast in shadows, right? It's that inability to be able to perceive the detail of things, and, you know, it rules dreams and things like that as well. So it could be that you've been having some really wild dreams recently, and you're still trying to process all of the stuff that's coming up in that, because your subconscious speaks in imagery. It doesn't have language. It has no concept of the passing of time. Like, communication with the subconscious can be like having to learn a whole new language, and your subconscious already knows the language, and you're trying to communicate with it, and it's just showing you a picture, or it's giving you a feeling, or something like that. The trick is to be able to learn to speak that language too. And this is one of the reasons why the tarot is so useful. But I'm going to stop blathering on for a second here. The Two of Swords is also a card that speaks of things that are hidden, but there's more of a conscious quality to this, in so much as she is blindfolded. She's got her back to the water and her back to the moon, which, you know, also speaks about intuition. When we've got emotion here in the water in the background, and she's holding on to the swords, and she's trying to make conscious decisions about things. How interesting that this card should have come up underneath the King of Swords there. It's like, I'm trying to do everything right, but there's all of this, maybe even like dreamlike quality to life as you're experiencing it at the moment. Is everything feeling a little bit surreal, Virgo? Because I could see that being a thing here. Now, where I said that these cards are somewhat opposed to each other is because, you know, the implication with this card is that there's something that your conscious mind has screened out, and you don't know that you don't know it, because your conscious mind has screened it out. Your subconscious is very, very aware of it. But you're trying to use the swords when everything else is saying, there's got to be something a little bit more emotional here. Right? So in both of these instances, there's something hidden. That's what's implied by these cards. But then the moon's showing up in reverse, which speaks to revelation and unveiling and things being seen where they have not been seen before, right? Things coming literally to light, coming up to the surface. And I think that when you read these two cards together, what you've got is something coming to the surface in terms of what is going on in you, the way that you perceive yourself and the way that things are going on, right? And seeing what you did not see before. Because Virgo is a highly sensitive sign, and if it's one thing that I've noticed about Virgos, you are super, super sensitive to your environment as well. You know, getting Virgo into the right environment can clear a lot of crap up for you, because you're constantly taking in information all of the time, right? And it doesn't take very much to unsettle you, and you get yourself to a place of comfortableness. Noises, smells, you know, it's a branch of a tree hanging over the garden and blocking the light a little bit. Like, it's Virgo's attention to detail that is kind of a superpower, but it is also, if not managed carefully, the thing that can totally unseat you at the same time. And I think that the way that these cards are all talking here leads me to think that genuinely you think you're doing worse than you are, what the cards are saying to me is you are getting all of the information. You're getting a lot of stuff being thrown at you right now. Whether it's information that is coming from people, conversations, whether it's situations that you find yourself in that are a little bit overwhelming. I mean, maybe you've got, you know, your accounts to do, tax stuff to do. Maybe you're trying to run a business. Maybe you're trying to be a good employee. You know, all of these things could apply here, right? So lots of 3D material considerations. But then there's also stuff going on in here. And there's, you know, maybe you've got friends who are having problems as well. You're trying to help them, or family who are having problems. It seems like everything feels like it's overwhelming you. And you're so busy trying to make sure that you show up that you've lost sight of the fact that you're showing up over and over and over again. Like, I think you're giving yourself a really hard time where you don't need to. Because in your situation, literally anyone would struggle. But you're doing it. You keep showing up. You know, this Tower card here actually feels like a tower that you are fearing that just doesn't seem to be actually even on its way at all. You know, we've got the King of Wands there. And I don't think that he's trying to put out the energy of the tower with his actions. Or maybe you are. Oh, maybe. Are you working a little bit too hard here, Virgo? Possibly. Let's get another card for that. Tell me about this King of Wands and Queen of Pentacles in reverse. Ace of Swords, right? I'm going to take that as the bingo card. And we've got the Hermit at the bottom of the deck here. Right, so there are two meanings here. One feels slightly more likely than the other. And I'll hop to that one first because it's the second interpretation that just hit me there. And that is, you are doing so much and you are working so hard to avoid the tower, right? Whatever the tower represents to you, maybe to make sure that you don't drop the ball at work or with your friends or with your family or with your own, you know, accounts and finances and stuff like that. You know, that it's actually coming at a detriment to you because you are doing all of the things and you are showing up and you are coping, but what you're not doing at this point is taking a bit of time for you, right? There seems to be actually here the implication that rest is the thing that you need. And I would go as far as to say that perhaps it's time to have a look at all of the things that you are doing, appreciate them fully and properly for what they are. And maybe take a bit of time to start sieving through these and seeing if it is necessary for you to keep showing up in this high-powered way for everything. Because I think there's something kind of unsustainable about it, and I think maybe that's the fear. Maybe the fear is here that it is unsustainable for you, and at some point you're going to drop all of the balls and everything's going to go wrong at once. And I don't think that's what the actual issue is here, Virgo. It seems like you're being driven by a need to avoid the tower, and it's almost like you're kind of guaranteeing you're going to hit the tower at some point because you're putting so much energy into everything. Now, discernment, looking for the answers within, as we see here with the Hermit, which is a Virgo card, would say, I'm doing really well, but where am I shouldering burdens and responsibilities that don't belong to me? And where is that costing me something when really that could be put down? Because the interesting thing here for me is that you're trying to avoid the tower, but you're almost, like I said, almost certainly kind of drawing it into yourself if you are overworking and overextending yourself. The Queen of Pentacles, for me, talks specifically about the investment in self and self-care, and she's showing up in the reverse here, which means that she hasn't got the opportunity to do that in the way that she would like to. And it's funny how you've got a kind of perception of what is going on, but it's almost like 90-degree turn away from what the reality of the situation is. So you're afraid that you're not coping, but you are coping. But in the process of coping so extraordinarily and being kind of like over the top coping, you're almost guaranteeing that there's nothing left over for you, Virgo. And this Ace of Swords, the epiphany moment, is for you in October. I am working really hard, I am really capable, I am doing all of these things, but maybe I'm doing a few too many things. Actually, maybe I'm trying to do all of the things when all of the things are not my responsibility to do. Yeah, we've got that Sun card at the bottom of the deck, and like I said, for me that does speak about consciousness. It talks about lots of other things aside. But with these two cards together, oh look at that, we've got the Sun underneath the, oh you can't see it, sorry. We've got the Sun underneath the Hermit there. It's talking about very conscious exploration of what's going on inside here, because this state of overwhelm that you're feeling isn't for the reasons that you think that it is. And a huge part of it is that you're driving yourself so hard, you're not seeing what it is that you're actually achieving at this point. Now bear in mind that we're coming out of a period of time where we've had 7 planets in retrograde. That's kicked the shit out of everyone, because nobody's been able to drive forwards quite in the way that they've wanted to. And if you've managed to achieve anything during this time, then quite frankly, Virgo, you've been overperforming, because the rest of us haven't managed to do shit. Frankly, you know, it's kind of like, take a look at yourself properly, see what you've been doing, and then actually just be a little bit kinder to yourself, because what you've managed to do is extraordinary. But you're pushing yourself too hard. That's the long and short of it. You're pushing yourself too hard and too strong, and it's coming at a cost. And the cost will be that this tower slowly turns itself around and kind of sucks itself to here. So better to, you know, employ a bit of discernment now over the management of everything that you've got going on with you at the moment, and choose voluntarily, consciously, to put a few things down, maybe put a couple of things to the side and take some time for yourself, then have it forced upon you a little later down the road. When all of the planets start moving forwards again, you might find yourself completely overtaken by circumstances, which might, because all of the energies are moving forwards, which might knock the stuffing out of you if you are not consciously and mindfully taking care of yourself during this time, you know? Alright, this is really interesting, Virgo. I'm going to go over to Vimeo now and see what it is that you need to know. Not Vimeo, go do the extended. So we can see what it is that you need to know specifically about October. And you can join me on Vimeo, or you can join me over at Circle, whichever you prefer. If you would like to come and join me for that, you're very welcome to do so. If not, just take a minute, Virgo, just take a breath. Like, again, Saturn, Jupiter in Virgo. I find sometimes writing lists as I am doing things. I found this over the summer. It's been extraordinary, actually. I walk around with this constant terror that I'm lazy and I don't do enough. And in the summer, because I had considerably more things to do than usual, I started writing lists. And one of the things that I would do is, if I'd done a random thing that I didn't have on my list, I would write it on my list simply so I could cross it off. And the unintended consequence of that was, at the end of the day, I looked at everything that I'd done and went, holy shit, I do 15 times more than I think I do every single day. It gave me an appreciation of how much I do, which allowed me to give myself permission to not do things occasionally. I'd take a morning where I don't get up at 4 AM, but that's okay, right? You sleep until 7, that's okay. Maybe writing yourself a list of the things that you do in a day might help ground you in the reality of what it is that you've been achieving despite considerable odds of the universe, you know, all of the planets being in retrograde and that not supporting forward movement, and you've managed to do all of this anyway. I think there's a warning in here about the possibility of burnout, and it would be one that you would do well to pay attention to. I mean, even if there is only one or two things that you put down, you've created a bit of space there for you to be able to breathe, and I think that that's important, you know. Alright, I'm going to leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.